indeed. Suvi from Publicis, Leah from Socialize, and Justin from University of McCann. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Speakers for this informative discussion. And thanks to James, who moderated this session. And now to our next session, which is an interview on Nissan CMO, the future of transportation and marketing, by Fadi Ghusn, Chief Marketing Officer, Middle East, Nissan. This will be moderated by Omar Christidis, the founder and CEO of ArabNet.
Hello, everyone. Okay, let's give everybody a minute to settle down. This is going to be we're extremely thrilled to have with us today Mr. Fadi Ghusn, the CMO of Nissan in the Middle East, and we're going to have a multi-part conversation here today. Part will be around the future of cars. Right now, this is one of the fastest changing sectors. We will also have a discussion about the future of marketing, since Fadi is the Chief Marketing Officer and looking towards the future around how he's going to sell those cars of the future. And so thank you so much for joining us, Fadi. Real pleasure to have you. So we start our conversation, and if I can just trouble everybody there to in or out and then close the door so that we can have a little bit of quiet. So with self-driving cars, the spread of car services, let's ask here, how many people here in the room own a car? Raise your hand if you own a car.
That's good.
Okay. How many people here use Uber or Careem or once a week at least? Once a week at least. Okay? Here's the trickier one. How many people here may be willing in the next time they buy a car to forego buying a car and go to a car sharing service altogether? How many people may not buy a car in the future? Okay, few people. I'm raising my hand for that one. And I told Fadi this already before when we met. So he told me he's going to convince me to buy a Nissan. So this is our conversation here today. Fadi, tell us, with the rise of self-driving cars, the spread of car sharing services, what do you see as the future of transportation? A lot of people are talking about change in car ownership behavior and a difference in or a decrease in interest in car ownership. What does this mean for a brand like Nissan?
I mean, look, industry will keep growing. So you have a lot of region and geographies where if you look at the number of cars per population, so we call it like number of car per thousand, we're still very low to compare to other markets. If you look areas like Asia and India, car industry will still grow. So that's like where everybody is eventually expanding. Now, we look at, we call it disruption in the business in terms of maybe autonomous driving or, for instance, the sharing or the Uber sharing or the hailing. At the end of it, it will be a part of a business model. So every country, every city will have a combination of so many things. We've heard Dubai about the smart Dubai in the morning. So it will be a combination of probably shared services like the taxis, the metro, the buses. You will have your own personal car, and eventually you'll have what we call the public transport and the way it's moving. And you always have a lot of shared technology in terms of self-driving cars and autonomous driving cars. So if you look at the nightmare of every single city today, when you ask to the mayor of, for instance, let's pick California or let's talk Dubai, what's the nightmare of RTA?
Thursday night?
Obviously, Thursday night is one of them, but if you take a higher approach, is investment in roads. And that's a huge investment. So they keep expanding on the network, and that's a huge cost. So you talk about expanding to build, then eventually managing the maintenance of it. So it will be difficult to see how things will expand in the future. So there will be no more roads. I mean, if you take a place like old cities, take Paris. I mean, how you want to expand? it will be tough. So you will see a decline of eventually people buying cars. Like places like California and small cities, you'll also see this, LA. So there is no one solution for everything. But one thing is definitely happening is the car sharing. And we at Nissan, we can obviously see ourselves in the future building different cars that really fit the requirement of a car sharing in the future. So we've seen, I think, on so many places, the shapes of the car sharing. So they look a bit odd, like, a car boxes and having people around it. So it will be different. So today in car business, people look at expanding their business. So the way the old, I think, listening at the previous panel, and you see how things are shaping up. So all car industries look at the segment in the ABC. So A is your small car, B is slightly bigger, C is slightly higher. Then we all believe that people that want to get their first car, it will be an A car, it could be, in our case, Nissan, like in our region, a Micra. Then you have slightly more money, you go to a Sentra, and here we go. This all will be changing if we talk about car sharing. So the ABC will be no more important, which is a huge disruption to the car business, because as a customer, maybe your first car will never be an A. Your first car, it could be a sharing car. So that's what eventually will be moving. And all car manufacturers, I'll say, some of them are making huge investment into that direction.
So A, B, and C, we're talking about features here and about amenities or about sizes. So today, what car features do people value today, and what features do you think they're going to value in the future? How are they going to make their purchase decisions in the future?
I still believe if you look at geographies and demographics, they all have different requirements. The common understanding is people will always look at value, safety, reliable, comfort, and in some cases luxury. So these are the basics. Whatever you do in whatever case, whether you want to take an Uber or you want to take a sharing, I think these things are the fundamentals of the business. So, however, I want to add something to it, is digital connectivity. So whatever we do today, people sit in a car, they want to figure out how they do it. So I'll give you an example. It takes a car, let's say, to build a car from conception into getting into the market, it's 6 to 7 years process. So by the time you do it, you develop what we call it, your screen. And this screen has some kind of, I would say, technology. By the time you get it to the market, the technology is old. So we've seen a lot of people not opting for getting a navigation screen and getting something, we call it in our industry, mirroring. So you get to the car, you get your phone, you mirror it to the screen, then it mirrors eventually your iPhone or your Samsung. So that's what a lot of people are doing it. So however, as a car manufacturer, the screen today is no more a navigation screen. In our case, the screen is a multimedia screen. You can do so many things, from getting into reverse parking and what have you. So we're evolving with the technology, but eventually technology is at a speed and the pace which is quite, I think, quick, that some manufacturers are playing catch up, some other manufacturers are really taking a leading position.
So with this context, right, and I think it's really interesting to talk about the technology life cycle versus the car manufacturing life cycle, and what does this mean in terms of a car manufacturer being able to really incorporate the latest technologies in their cars. So with that in mind, where do you see Nissan in the next 5 years?
It will be tough to describe, but I will talk about. So if this is okay, I would like to share a video that will showcase, I think,
Sure.
as a Nissan, as a company, where we're heading.
The video, please.
So I didn't mean to make some advertisement, but I think it will be difficult for me to describe all what we want to talk about because there's a lot of things happening on the automotive side. So we try as a company to combine everything under one umbrella, which is the Nissan Intelligent Mobility. There is a lot of technology that we have, so we try to give it a name and try to put that technology under this pillar. So eventually, Nissan Mobility is the way how we want to get there. And we'll talk about three pillars: the intelligent driving, intelligent power, and intelligent integration. So, and you've seen a lot about EV, which is electric vehicle, autonomous driving, and obviously self-driving vehicles into that direction.
Excellent. And so definitely it piques your imagination, the video, and it makes me think about, you know, the next wave, which is that great image of imagine choosing when you want to drive, right? So self-driving cars, we've been hearing about it a lot. How many people here would feel comfortable today getting into a self-driving car and just letting it drive? Raise your hand if you would. Okay.
Wow.
Not many. I expected to see more, especially at a tech conference. So what about self-driving cars?
Yeah.
What are Nissan's plans? When do we see self-driving cars? Because that's what I want. I don't like to drive personally.
So let me explain it, but you know, there is a difference between autonomous driving, we call it the AD business, and self-driving. Autonomous driving is you're still in control. So the car can act on your behalf, so you can give it control to go from right to left, to make a turn. So that's happening now, and we have a couple of cars in Japan driving, and we're testing. And this, you will probably see it also in Dubai. As you know, the police, RTA, they have a place to test autonomous driving, maybe not announced to the public, but they do a lot of testing here on autonomous driving, because Dubai is one of the cities where you will see them pioneering all this technology in the future. It could be in a controlled area, but that's what they will do. So that's on the autonomous driving. So when you want to talk about self-driving is happening, but it's far from being on the commercial side. So it will take, I believe, much more time for self cars to be, you will see it on the road. So you will see it in controlled area. You could see maybe in some of the new cities that Dubai is developing. You could see it at Masdar. We're seeing in some places. But it's far from being commercially a viable equation. It will take a lot of technology around. It will take a lot of, I would say, regulation on to make it available. Two, there is always a human interaction that it has to come. So at Vegas, Nissan announced a lot about, I would say, self-driving. So imagine you put self-driving cars to drive in LA. Then it happened that there is a, I would say, construction. Then the self-driving car will not be able to know what to do if there's something. So it will stop, then it will not move. So to do that, we have a human intervention that will come to help eventually direct the car where to go. And obviously, we've seen it in testing. So there's a lot of tests happening. We've seen I would say, automotive cars doing autonomous driving. And all what they want to do is they want to disrupt, I think, the whole industry by putting autonomous driving. So it's coming, but I don't think...
Any chance we can get a like 2020, 2020, 30, 2040?
I think you will see more at the Expo 2020. There will
Okay.
be a lot of, I think, showcases that
cool.
will come, you know, I think to support Dubai, you know, UAE vision. And you will see some, I would say, activity. I must say that Dubai is, as a government, UAE is very active into this, extremely active. It's not because they see the cost of, because there is no income or the cost of fuel. Obviously, they care, they want to be pioneering when it comes to green technology and obviously self-driving. But you know, self-driving come with challenges. When you do self-driving, there will be less accident, which means less income to municipalities. When you say self-driving, there will be insurance will be lower, which means less income for the insurance companies. So you need to go really start peeling that onion to figure out when you do self-driving, what does this mean? So I would say a city like New York, who lives on huge, I mean, the income of traffic is in the billions, then if you remove that income, what will happen? So there's a lot into it, But I think we're at the early stages of discovering, and I think all what we need to do is understand and cope with the changes.
So let's pivot a little bit. Let's talk about marketing, because I think we have a lot of marketeers here in the room who want to understand your take on how you're going to communicate around or the channels that you're using and the strategies that you're using. So a question for you today: how has the media mix for you as Nissan changed in the past few years? Where are you expecting to spend more money? And what kind of new channels or strategies are you pursuing within the digital media domain?
There is definitely a move into digital. And, but still, let me split it. If you say, let me give an example. If you want to do a campaign, because in Nissan lineup we have different cars that goes to different people. So if I have a pickup truck that I need to eventually get some audience in Qasim, digital will not work. So you really have to go figure out what you need to do. So I think traditional media is still working. You need to define the geography you're in and the demographics. As long as you know who are you talking to, then the channels will be easy to identify. The issue is we don't know who you want to talk to. Today when agencies define the customer, we're still somehow looking at the old way, male age 20 to 40, and he does this and he does that, and eventually this will not work in the future. So I think it's a combination of digital and traditional, depending on who you wanna target.
How would you define the customer then? If it's not age 20 to 40 male?
Okay, look, I think you need to believe in the data, and you need to agree to make mistakes. We've heard the panel. All the KPIs they were put on digital 3 years ago, they are not used anymore. So we talk about click, we talk about reach. These things that not exist. So today we're talking about drop rates and what have you, and there is a lot of data. So we're definitely, as a company, we're investing a lot in the marketing mix modeling, where we're using data to really analyze and optimize, and that's what we do. And I think we're one of the maybe few manufacturers here that talk about integration, that we created one agency called Nissan United. It's a business model that we have, that we combine all the disciplines together. And that's how we are working. I think optimizing is a key word, because it will help you learn and adjust quickly.
So I'm curious to see as well, this is in terms of marketing. What about the customer journey? How do you see technology transforming the customer journey? And how do you see the purchasing process change as a result of new technologies? We talk about virtual reality today. I might not go for a test drive. Maybe I'll go for a virtual reality test drive. Are you looking at these new touch points in the customer journey, and how do you see that being reshaped?
Of course. We're using so many techniques. We're making mistakes and we're learning. And that's the only way to go, because there is no other way around it. There is no magic formula when it comes to this. So we're going through a digital transformation, digitize or die. This is where we're heading.
I love it. I want to use your picture with that statement, digitize or die.
Because, you have no other way. Today, there's a lot of data. The problem is we're sitting in a region where there was no data. Suddenly, there are tons of data. And a lot of people are struggling what to do with. So the data does exist. You need to figure out what is the best way to use it. So if you look at automotive on purchasing cycle, a lot of people are doing a lot of research online. So the customer going to the showroom today, he knows his stuff, and he knows it more than anybody else. But you still need to go to the showroom. Today, car purchase is the second biggest investment after your home. So you wouldn't expect to buy a $15,000 car or whatever you want to call it, up to maybe 100 by just going online or doing a virtual reality. You still need to go to the showroom. You still need to go and test drive it, feel it, touch it. You're paying a lot of money. And it's something that you use day in, every day. That's something that you will drive every day. So I think it's not like FMCG where you buy or eventually, your friend bought it. I think the customer experience is very, very important. And we are redefining the whole customer experience by calling it a frictionless customer journey. So that's what we're implementing. The challenge, as a manufacturer, you work with your dealers. So you go online, you see a car, but you have to go to your dealer, which is our partners, to go and test drive the car. So obviously, there is a drop over there happening. So imagine you're buying a ticket. By the time you want to click on your seat, you lose everything. You go to another site to click your seat on the airplane. So that's what's happening in automotive industry, because you have to go somewhere else to do that.
I think sometimes that happens with me with Middle East Airlines.
Yeah.
But, my last question, actually, I was talking to a gentleman from Mercedes, and he was telling me about selling cars over Facebook, selling cars over e-commerce. Do you think e-commerce is a viable strategy for automotive? I understood that there is success in selling cars over social media.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Ignoring it will be a mistake.
Okay.
Definitely. I think we need to definitely keep learning. It will not happen online, because the shopping experience is different from the ownership experience. So you can shop around, however, when you go and pay the money, you need to interact with the car. So B2B is one way to go, but obviously getting it and testing it is different. I'm not sure, consumer will buy maybe a $500, eventually maybe something at online, but when you buy something at $20,000, I think you need to go beyond, your screen and try to figure out what it is, what are the features. We've seen some car manufacturer in different countries where they choose not to have a network, but eventually it didn't work, because instead of having a dealer network, they end up being in shopping malls. So people still come and see the car and they buy it from the same manufacturer. So I still believe the feel and touch is important. Also, in whatever form you put it, car purchase, there is a lot of emotion. And so you need to like, you need to feel, you need to touch. And a lot of people buy car because their emotions, there is a lot of emotion into it. So car design is extremely important. Very few people agree to buy an ugly car. I mean, what really pulls you is the design, what you like, what you feel. And you cannot ignore the emotion in it.
I love it. Thank you, Fadi, so much. I love the humble approach with which you guys are looking at the whole digital landscape, looking at experimenting, the importance of the role of data that you see, and the openness to learning from the whole process, especially given how fast this whole market is changing for every industry. So thank you, and thank you for sharing your insights with us. Thank you for the audience for joining us as well.
Thank you.